What does FNAF Secret of the Mimic hide in the Big Top's showroom and chase? Secret of the Mimic is a free-roam FNAF game set in the world's creepiest costume department. Here, you'll explore the halls of this decayed and abandoned workshop, upgrading your data diver so you can run face first into the terrors ahead. A mimic capable of instantly adapting its appearance lurks within the darkness, so you can never know for sure who you can trust. In this video, we'll be taking a look at this grim exploration from another perspective, to see more of how it functions behind the scenes. Like, how does Big Top attack you from literally all angles? We'll be breaking tons of stuff too. So I hope you enjoyed today's alternative look at Secret of the Mimic. Now, as always, I'll do a quick recap of the areas we'll be covering. That way, we all know the flow of events. So after evading the clown and waking up in the safety of the office, dispatch informs you of another upgrade station nearby. Heading back to the manor's entrance, you'll restart the welcome show using a computer. And luckily, it doesn't go all Charlie and the Chocolate Factory this time. The stairs will pop out as intended, which grants you access to the lobby. Yes, we've already been through a full circus of terror, and we've only now reached the lobby. It's going to be a long day. Continuing forward, you'll find a broken down elevator that needs fixing, and when returning to the instructional tape, the mimic begins roaming this main area. After avoiding them and grabbing the tape, you'll follow the instructions to repair the elevator, which can take you upstairs. I'll stop the recap there for now, so let's jump back in time. So with the lights now on, we can take a much better look at this area. The room is full of vibrant mascots and illustrations, and I imagine this place would be a great hangout without the shape-shifting mechanical nightmare constantly on your tail. While the cheerful mascots are disarming in theory, that doesn't make this any less terrifying, especially knowing they could activate and begin chasing you at any moment. Within this area, I found a staircase that I was certain held all kinds of neat surprises, but no such luck. It only leads to a rectangular section of flooring around the bend with no fantastical secrets. This area is pretty simple, so there isn't much to see off camera, but what I really wanted to focus on here was the mimic. When we first encountered this animatronic with an identity crisis, they were surprisingly decisive in choosing one singular animatronic suit to wear. Within the lobby though, this enemy is capable of swapping between multiple forms in a change that happens pretty much instantly. The first instance where we faced the mimic was, believe it or not, a completely different entity altogether. The first encounter uses a completely separate enemy known as Elephant Mascot AI Tutorial, which is basically a light version of the enemy we encounter throughout the game. They're clearly no less aggressive here, but to my understanding, they can't transform into any mascots beyond the elephant they spawn as. As for the mimic in the lobby, this version can take the appearance of any of the mascots occupying the room and begin roaming around in search of the player. Because this is so, the entity we encounter here is pre-packaged with multiple states. Each of these states contains a different model, and there's one for each of the characters they can become. Using the powers of my stand, I can change this enemy on a whim to whichever character I desire, which is super neat. Unfortunately, there were some unexpected errors during this transition. The character they take over on their own looks completely normal, but each of the mascots we force upon them will have some pretty noticeable bugs with their texture mapping. Some of these characters look even more horrifying this way, with the textures of their suits being turned inside out, or even replaced using the wrong character. Of all these characters, Birthday Puppy is probably the most nightmare-inducing. I don't think I need to explain why, since I'm sure some of you are curious. When the mimic changes costumes in this area, we can see from another perspective that they'll actually disappear from the map. I don't know if they're being moved elsewhere or temporarily unloaded, but after a short while, a dormant mascot in the room will then be activated. Now up ahead in this back area, there's an elevator with an uninvited guest jamming up the gears. Taking a look inside shows us that this elevator does not have the best safety rating. Matter of fact, it's not even real. From inside, we can see straight through into the elevator shaft and the gears turning beneath it, which is great for maintenance work. It's just not so good for practical use. To get a head start on that pesky mimic, I made the 300 IQ play of just straight up deleting the elephant mascot's head. I may have overestimated the helpfulness of this choice though, and the gears were still stuck, despite the obstruction literally not existing anymore. Unfortunately for me, I deleted more than just a harmless elephant noggin here. I ran back into the lobby and faced the mimic again, grabbing the tape and returning to hopefully get things moving. But I have completely stunted myself on this one. The tape plays unhindered, and I can power the machine off and on like usual, but the head must be removed in order to continue. I sadly can't do that anymore, since the mascot head was erased from our plane of existence, meaning my game was effectively soft-locked. By warping the player through this corridor up above, we can still get the crank and return with a collectible. But until my previous save is loaded, this elevator is as good as useless. What I thought would be a cheeky shortcut turned into several minutes of running around. Oops. Now with my save loaded and the head returned, I could do my maintenance work the right way, and so I did just that. While working on the underside of this machinery, if you forget to set the emergency brake before the tinkering begins, you'll be crushed beneath it when it falls. From another angle, this is not as horrible as it sounds. If we begin working before the brake is activated, 4 sets of sparks will explode from around the player in a pretty sweet firework display. At this point, our character just sort of nosedives straight into the floor for apparently no reason. The elevator never even moves, so from this perspective, it appears he gets scared of the sparks and faceplants, dying dramatically. Glorious! With the elevator now repaired, we can move the camera inside of it to find it has now loaded in properly. This makes sense, considering we never see the inside of it unless it were repaired and became accessible, so there's no reason to load in an object that the player can't yet access. That being said, we can now climb inside and take a trip upstairs, although this is surprisingly uneventful. When the sounds and motions begin, we're only pretending to ascend, and the movement between floors is actually instant. Somehow I managed to break this again, and the elevator instead duplicated while I remained on the bottom floor. Why can't I just catch a break, man? The door wouldn't open either, so I had to manually break out and look for the mimic, letting them mercy kill me so I could use the elevator for real this time. Back into recap mode, we'll head through some hallways leading to Big Top's showroom. I hope you like these honeycomb puzzles because today they're the chef's special. After solving it the first time, the power comes on, and we'll meet our new pal, Big Top. The player must now solve 3 different mini-games: breaking this clown's teeth, shooting targets, and finally, shooting targets, but in space. After each minigame, the power is switched off and Big Top becomes weirdly obsessed with tickets. That means we'll have to head back and power things back up with a honeycomb puzzle. All 3 times a minigame is beaten. Hitting the jackpot using our tickets at the prize wheel, we'll go upstairs to see that Big Top has escaped. Once again, we'll put a pin in the recap and jump back in time. So when I first entered this area, I found a door that I couldn't access at the time. Removing this door revealed, surprise, another door labeled warehouse. My game did not like this, and the map behind me unloaded, which led me to falling into the void for eternity. This is not what I intended to happen, but hey, you win some, you lose some. Since we're talking about inaccessible doorways, I should mention that this blocked off doorway leads you to the Storytime showroom. You can access this area by passing through the clown in Big Top's showroom, but the hallway into this main lobby area is blocked off, so it's not accessible at this moment. I was able to break it down though, and I could walk through without any issues, but today we'll be sequence breaking Big Top a little bit differently. Up ahead, I arrived at the entrance to the Carnival of Horrors, and looking inside I realized that Big Top was already present and moving. What you're looking at makes no sense, because the game is paused at the moment. Despite this, his head continues spinning. This is just freaky. I'd ask him to stop, but I don't think he can. While we're here, we can take a good look at this enemy too, and intimidating is a great word for it. He's like 2 stories tall with massive metal arms and a rolling grinder in his mouth, and being stuck with them when the power switches off is not my idea of a fun time at the carnival. I'm so reluctant to interact with him that I simply decided not to, and this is going to break some things. By shrinking the player down, I could slip through the tent and get past Big Top before even grabbing the ticket. I then returned to my regular size and began exploring, and Big Top still remained by the door. It's creepy though because he kept turning his head around to look at me even though he's facing the complete opposite direction. I signed up for a retrieval mission, not an exorcism. Maybe Mr. Helpful saying you can't enter without a ticket wasn't a fact, but instead a warning? Either way, I will never doubt him again. Weirdly enough, there's nothing stopping you from playing the minigames at this point either. I could play the target shooting game without a problem, and after completing it, the power turned off as expected. Big Top was still stuck at the entrance though, so I ended up having to shrink myself in order to get past him. This was heart-pounding, but I eventually won our game of cat and mouse, only the cat was a 20-foot tall killing machine. I didn't turn the power back on using the puzzle though, but instead grabbed the original ticket from earlier and gave it to him since I never used it before. This reset the power automatically, and he went back to normal, so I could continue playing minigames as if I didn't totally break things a moment ago. Well, I may have spoken too soon. During the first minigame, I didn't receive a free spin on the wheel like I'm supposed to, and completing further games didn't reward them either. I have, once again, soft-locked my game. Before moving on, let's take a quick look at Big Top's jump scare. When a scare takes place, he's moved away from the center and lunges forward, towering over you as his entire body jumps at you. He then unloads, so there's no evidence at the scene of the crime. Well played, sir. Now after we finish each of the minigames, the doors will open up and we can head upstairs. As soon as we hit the stairs, Big Top realizes realizes he has better things to do and poofs out of existence. Moving the camera out here after this takes place, you can see a hole has appeared in the ceiling and debris comes raining down. Unless my game just didn't load it, I'm pretty sure there isn't an animation for this. He just disappeared without a trace. If we look above the gaping hole in the ceiling that Big Top just made, there's what looks like a blue light shining downward like a spotlight. If we move the camera up there, we can see that this light is actually a cone-shaped blue object that's aiming downwards into the rest of the level. It looks a lot more opaque from below, but when looking at other objects through it, it's barely visible. From this point, we'll use a code to unlock the door upstairs, which gives you access to the next upgrade station. With our new creator clearance, we'll head upstairs and take a step onto the roof. Apparently, this has taken a lot longer than I thought, and winter set in while we're inside, since it's snowing up a blizzard now. After opening a gate, Big Top goes full King Kong and topples the smokestacks as he pursues the player. After running inside, he blasts through the ceiling and into the building this time. Because his body can't fit through the doors ahead, his hands begin slamming into the room as you navigate these narrow hallways, forcing you into this crawl space as the Falcon punches continue. You then Metal Gear Solid your way through these mannequins, and he, plants one in front of you for some reason. The rain of fists continues until you reach a stairwell, and when all seems lost, a lucky structural failure saves you just in time. We then wake up and can head back to the office, with a now destroyed Big Top behind you. So jumping back to before this chase, we can move the camera back for a fully zoomed out view of this workshop. As I said previously, you would never get a view like this again, and we don't. You can clearly see that it's snowing now, so I was technically not wrong. If we look way out in the distance, the spooky house is still atop the hill, and the map isn't unloading around us like the last time, so we can see all of this loaded in at the same time. There's something else I found in a weird place, and that is a lone mannequin, just sort of hovering above the grass like a quarter mile out of bounds. There are a handful of these guys floating around the map in areas we'll explore as they load in, but I can't figure out why this one is here. I assumed it was used for one of the scripted sequences later in the chase, but to my knowledge, they never moved. You can also see when I zoom in that the snow is landing on this model and everything, so must have collisions enabled despite being so far away he's practically in the sequel. How could this nonsensical mannequin not be your favorite character? When returning to the workshop, I noticed something a bit strange about the windows again. These are usually out of your sight, but from out here, the factory looks a bit 90 degrees off, if you were to ask me. I don't know what in the Willy Wonka is happening in there, but it's definitely not OSHA approved. I'm not sure if you know this, but driving a forklift up a wall is surprisingly difficult. But with that said, it's time to start the Big Top chase. After the button is pressed, Big Top appears behind the building in front of us in this climbing pose. When he starts climbing around the corner, he looks like a massive spider. His real scale is a lot more apparent now that he's literally scaling a building. This sequence has a lot more impact when you see the carnage he's causing along the way too. When you head inside, he blasts through the ceiling and jump scares you if you aren't fast enough. But how does this look off camera? Viewing this from another angle, Big Top blinks into existence with destruction on his mind, lifting his left hand up and then slamming through as he dangles from the ceiling above. We're now face to face with the monster, who just hangs out until we either leave or get jump scared. There's something funny about his jump scare here though. When this sequence takes place, there are two very strangely posed mannequins at the base of his body where we can't see them. Big Top himself is standing upside down with his hands holding him up, looking between his legs in a pretty goofy pose. Not as goofy as these two though. I have no idea what their deal is. Now, when we run downstairs, Big Top stops outside the door because he's just too big to chase us inside. So he instead deploys his army. Literally, these hands that drop down through the ceiling are copies of Big Top's body with the wooden structure and shutters, but there's only one arm attached to it. A lot of these will spawn in as we continue forward, but there are some already loaded further ahead in the map, although you can't see exactly where because this next section is not yet loaded in. While checking this out, I located a red tile platform hidden out of our sight. This flat object is lined with a grid, and each square measures at 100 centimeters. This object is white boxing, or in this case, red boxing, that is used to mock up an area to get a feel for it before committing to building it out with real 3D assets. And they forgot to remove this object before the release build was packaged and eventually published. It's located in the crawl space we navigate to avoid Big Top. It's not uncommon to find tools left over from construction inside attics and walls in real life, so there's a certain irony of this being here of all places. By the way, you can find this during regular gameplay as well. It's just in a place you probably wouldn't be looking. Another object I found out of bounds in this area is a hollow rectangle, and it's floating above one of these office hallways. I'm not certain what this asset is used for, but It unloaded with the rest of the objects after I left this area. If you know what this is, let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious. As we continue through these hallways, more of these mangled big tops will appear and slam their fists inside to block our path. Not all these objects unload either, and so we can move the camera out of bounds to find more than 10 of them still around. I told you he assembled an army, and it wasn't just a stupid pun. What I find funny about this is that Big Top is still waiting for us in the stairs, even though his legion of limbs is crowding the office. Now as we jump down into the next floor, we'll enter the crawl space I mentioned a little bit ago. Above this entire section is a strange looking grid pattern made out of some black barriers. And to my understanding, these are all the locations Big Top can use to astral spiff you into oblivion. It's the world's scariest game of Battleship, except your opponent always knows where your ships are. Unlike the previous instances, there is no body attached to these limbs, and it's only the arms blasting holes in the ceiling this time. Another difference between these objects is that they unload after leaving, so they don't fill up the space like the previous ones. After dropping down, this poor mannequin gets straight up yoinked when we walk by. From another angle, you see that Big Top's arm appears up above this room and slams down on top of him, breaking him apart and dragging him out of sight. The hand then unloads, and the now mangled prop just stays here indefinitely. It's probably safer up here, so I'm a bit envious. Take me with you. Further ahead, I saw these mannequins flickering in place, which was really strange. I assumed it was some sort of Z-fighting at first, but upon closer inspection, it became clear that they were snapping up and down extremely fast. I'm not sure what has them so excited, especially since their friend was straight up stolen a moment ago. There's also this guy with his head stuck in the ceiling, which is oddly hilarious. They're not the only ones either, since there are 4 more of these guys clipping through the crawl space above them as well. These entities have plunged this whole chase into chaos, and I'm definitely here for it. For some reason, Big Top now returns a mannequin instead of taking them away. The hole in the ceiling appears instantly as the arm and mannequin do the same, slamming down our new friend as the arm up above moves out of sight and unloads. At the same time, I also spotted Big Top's jump scare model, A-posing, I guess, and next to him are 2 mannequins seen during his jump scare earlier. In the final stretch of the chase, more of these fists will blast through the walls beside you, and beyond said walls, we can watch as these objects load in to break through and block our path. Of course, they then retract and vanish, which is pretty much expected at this point, leading to the final moment of the chase. If we move the camera up inside the stairwell, we'll get a clear view of Big Top as he drops down from up above. He falls down through a black barrier while grappling the railings and stairs in the process. He then faces off with the player, demolishing the stairs in the process and causing both himself and the player to plunge into the void below. Big Top unloads at this point, and when the player awakens, they'll be in a completely different location. Big Top is now utterly destroyed from the fall, with his eyes busted and his mouth broken beyond repair. His wooden body has also been scraped up pretty badly, with some of his shutters missing to boot. Despite his bottom half not being visible, this model is fully fleshed out from top to bottom. Big Top has now been vanquished, somehow, I guess, and we can continue on with his robot titan now dispatched. But with that, that's everything I found hidden behind the scenes and off camera in Big Top's showroom and chase sequence. We still have a lot to cover, so be sure to subscribe so you won't miss my next game-breaking video on Secret of the Mimic. Cheers!